Hello and welcome back to the Extra Point. My name is Jonathan and I'm joined by my very good friend James. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Happy to be here this evening.
Yes, and we are back. I know you at home didn't think we'd be back, but we are back. We are actually serious about doing this show. So we came back just as we promised. And
we are going all the way this year.
Yes, we
all
promise.
the way.
This is almost certainly, probably, maybe a serious thing.
Yes.
So,
as well, serious might be giving it too much credit, but it is a thing.
A bit of an overstatement, yes, but it is definitely a
I don't know
thing.
how serious it is.
No.
Depending on your definition of the word serious.
Yeah, there's very little about this that's actually serious, but we like to think of it as being serious, and we're just gonna go.
Sure.
We're just gonna go from there. Now, Jim, right off the top, I owe you an apology because I made a mistake in our last recordings. You see, I did the intro for our initial recordings of this show, and I referred to you at the top as being my very good and erstwhile friend, because I thought that erstwhile was a very sophisticated sounding SAT level word to inject into the opening that would give our show some gravitas. But you see, I was wrong. I used the word erstwhile without actually realizing or understanding what erstwhile means.
I assumed what you meant was exactly what you intended, but I'm now just looking at it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Is
this how you feel?
I made a mistake. I've made a terrible mistake.
Erstwhile means former, Jonathan.
I know. So when I was saying that, not realizing what erstwhile actually means, thinking it meant the exact opposite of what it actually meant, I was calling you my very good and former friend, which is not accurate, it must be said.
I mean, I know we don't live near each other anymore, but I still consider ourselves friends.
Well, and that's why I'm apologizing to you now, because I made a mistake. I used a fancy sounding word without actually understanding exactly what it meant. I thought, for the record, erstwhile meant the exact opposite. I thought it meant long-standing.
Yeah.
Something that had been around for a long time.
It has that feel.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, so I was wrong about that. That is my official correction. Jim, I apologize for giving all the people out there the wrong impression.
Did we get some fan letters about that or something?
No, just a guilty conscience. That's all it is. It's a guilty conscience.
How'd you even notice this?
Honestly, because the thought occurred to me that I'd been using this word in the intro, and it just occurred to me that I don't 100% understand what it means. And so I went to the dictionary just to check. Does it mean what I think it means? And I realized it meant the exact opposite of what I thought it meant. So that's all it was. It just occurred to me to double check, and I was way off the mark there. So I am sorry about that.
We were formerly friends. We still are. We just were at an earlier time too.
Former and also current, yes.
Yes.
Former and current with no break in between, really.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, except for that one time.
Yes. Well, yes. The office Christmas party. But best left in the past.
I still have those embarrassing photos.
Oh, yeah, the blackmail material. Well, don't worry. You've got blackmail on me. I've got blackmail on you. Mutually assured destruction, so.
I'm clean. If he produces anything, I want this known. If he produces any sort of evidence to the contrary in the future of me being clean, just know it's AI. It's always AI.
Of course it is. And so, but we are back, and we are filming this after week 3, heading into week 4. So, our initial recordings were around the time of week 1, and so we've had a couple more weeks of NFL football. We have a little bit of a better sense of what the league is doing, I think, but it's still been very chaotic. It's been very.
Especially whenever I think I have a sense of how everything's going, and a lot of stuff changes on its head very suddenly. We've had teams that we didn't expect to be doing well do incredibly well at the start of the season, and then right as we think, okay, these guys are serious, and then they go loose. So we'll get into that later. But
yes, we will.
It's been confusing.
And so the game plan for this episode is, as promised, the bedrock foundation of why this show even exists. We're going to make our game predictions for Week 4, as we are now barreling ahead into this week's NFL action. And so, without further ado, should we just jump into what we've got, what our slate is for Week 4?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and start talking.
Because
who thinks going to do what.
We should acknowledge that once again we're filming this during Thursday Night Football. You know, we always intend to record these before Thursday Night Football. It never works out that way for assorted reasons. So we are recording this as Thursday Night Football has just gotten underway.
Yes.
So
it's two of my most disliked teams, so I don't feel like I'm missing much personally.
No, and this game does contain my team, and yet I'm also half anticipating, half dreading it. And so we have to just start off with this. Cowboys at Giants, Thursday Night Football.
Quick recap on where our scores lie so far.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes.
Last week, week 3, we did our picks off camera, and we came to the following conclusions. For New England and the New York Jets, we both picked the Jets, and they won. Philadelphia at New Orleans, we both picked New Orleans. New Orleans lost. Chargers and Pittsburgh, we both picked the Chargers, and they lost. Cleveland and Giants, we both picked Cleveland, and they lost. So first 4, not a great win-loss record between us, but we are all in agreement. We are in agreement in Chicago, Indianapolis. We picked Indianapolis. They won. Houston, Minnesota. We picked Houston. They lost. Denver, Tampa Bay. We picked Tampa Bay. They lost, which, that's one of the teams I was talking about. Just when you think they're actually doing really well, they go and get blown out by Denver and Bo Nix. Green Bay, Tennessee. Both picked Green Bay. They won. Carolina and Las Vegas. We both picked Las Vegas, and they somehow lost.
Incredibly.
They had 36 points dropped on them by a team who hasn't been able to score all season. Seattle, Miami, we both picked Seattle. They won. San Francisco, LA Rams, we both picked San Francisco. They lost. Detroit and Arizona, we had a disagreement here. I picked Detroit. You picked Arizona. We both doubled down on our picks. Detroit won. So I got a lot of points. You lost some points. Baltimore, Dallas, both picked Dallas. They won. Both picked Baltimore and they won. Kansas City, Atlanta, both picked Kansas City. They won. Jacksonville, Buffalo, we both picked Buffalo. They won. And Washington, Cincinnati, we both picked Cincinnati and they lost, which means Jonathan's score for this week was 6 and mine was 9.
Which also brings us
the winner of the week.
Yes, that is true, of Week 3. And so our overall scores for the first 3 weeks of the season comes out to, I believe, Jim 26, me 23. So you've got a 3-point lead to start the season.
I continue on the road to winning yet another season.
But we'll see, because we have a new week on the horizon, and we could have more differences this time. So we will see. And so, yes, should we jump into the game being played right now? Cowboys, Giants, Giants, Cowboys?
Let's talk about it.
I wish we didn't have to.
Just as a preface, we did make our picks already for this game so that we wouldn't be influenced by what happened.
Yes, although I'm not sure that I'm not sure that it would have had a very significant influence. I can tell you, I can honestly care less what the score is right now. My pick would remain the same.
Ooh, DJ just threw an interception.
Oh.
it was a perfect route if I guess that didn't just happen, but it was a perfect route if the Cowboys guy was wearing a Giants jersey, because it looked like he was running. It looked like the Cowboys guy was running that route perfectly.
How out of character.
Yeah. I didn't even see a Giant in the area.
No. And so, so, I mean, do you want to start first here, since you have a visceral dislike for both of these teams?
Yes. Well, no, we're impartial, remember? We are two impartial observers of the NFL, not biased at all. I don't hate Dallas with a passion, and I don't strongly dislike the New York Giants. It's hard to. I mean, I can confidently say I don't hate the Giants as much as I hate Dallas because simply they the New York Giants haven't done anything to the Eagles in the recent past that would make me hate them. So 2 good wins this season. I got honestly, I should love the Giants.
You should. You really should. I'm telling you.
And yes, the Giants had a good win last week, a potentially surprising win last week. So they come in. They're coming into this short week, this game, looking like the best they have for a while. Honestly, they've got a receiver that can make incredible plays. What else can I say about the Giants positively? They've got Malik Neighbors.
That's a huge positive.
They've got Malik Neighbors.
Yes.
They've got a really good rookie wide receiver drafted in the first round.
And what's his name?
Malik Neighbors.
Oh, okay, yes. Gotcha.
Yeah. And yeah, they've got a really good former LSU wide receiver.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And LSU's good, so.
Yeah. Well, they certainly were when he was there.
Yes. Meanwhile, Dallas has been losing games they should have won this season. They've done it twice. They got to be pretty upset. They know that they need to get back on track right now. They need a soft team that they can beat up against to reestablish themselves. And I fear that might be the Giants.
Yes.
Yeah. So my pick here is going to be Dallas.
Yes. And so my feelings about the Giants over the course of weeks 1 and 2 versus weeks 1, 2, and 3 diverge somewhat significantly. If I had to describe my feelings about the Giants after weeks 1 and 2, I would describe it like this. I would describe it as being like, imagine the breakup of the Beatles during all of the Roman Empire, while Ben Affleck and J-Lo are getting divorced again. Like, that's the level of chaos that I'm talking about when I would describe the Giants over the first 2 seasons, or the first 2 games, right? It was awful. Worst team in the league. Panthers, maybe. After what happened last week, we went into Cleveland and we beat the Browns. Now I'm just going to say the Giants are pretty bad. They're a pretty bad team with one standout piece. Then that is Malik Neighbors. He's awesome. We all love Malik. He's great. The overall prognosis of our season, though, is still bad. Make no mistake. I watched the full game replay of last week's game at Cleveland, and that game could easily have gone the other way. Let's not fool ourselves. That was not a commanding Giants win. I wish it was, but that was a game that really went on a coin flip. It could very easily have gone the other way. We came out on top. I am happy about that. We didn't look as bad in week 3 as we did in weeks 1 and 2, which suggests to me that the adjustments that have been made are having an impact. That's good. Again, we have one piece, Malik Neighbors, who is awesome, and that's very heartening to see. But make no mistake, the prognosis for the Giants season this season is still bad. We still have a long, hard road ahead, and I don't think this matchup ultimately is going to change that narrative. The Cowboys, they are vengeful. They got beaten badly by the Saints. That had to hurt. Then they got slapped by the Ravens at home. Again, that had to hurt. And they are now going to take it out on the team that they have reliably taken it out against twice a year on prime time in front of the entire country every year for the past decade. Nothing builds the Cowboys' confidence back up like beating us in prime time. They're so good at it. They specialize in it. And they've been doing it for over a decade now, consistently and reliably.
No matter how the rest of the Cowboys season goes, they can always count on beating the Giants in primetime.
Exactly. Once in September, always once in September, once at Thanksgiving. They love beating the shit out of us at Thanksgiving. They love it. And so, yes, 1 week can make a difference. Things aren't looking quite as bleak as they did after the first 2 weeks, but that's not saying much. It's still going to be a long, hard road, and I would still put a healthy amount of money on the Cowboys doing what they have done time and time again, which is beating us and beating us badly on prime time. So you're picking the Cowboys as much as it pains me to do so, and believe me, it pains me to do so. I have no choice but to do the same. At the very least, the bright side is I've got Malik Neighbors in fantasy, and he's probably going to do great. So that's good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the Cowboys are going to win this game. So there it is.
Yeah. And that I don't think that really that makes the Giants look any worse, honestly. It as long as y'all put up a good fight against the Cowboys, that's all that really matters. Nobody can really expect the Giants to win this. Just try. Just go out there and just give it the old college try.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not? You might as well have some fun out there. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's that, and we'll see how this game plays out. But that's, I think, our shared prognosis. Which means, should we then carry on to our early slate on Sunday?
Indeed, we should.
Well, we've got the Bengals at the Panthers. How are you feeling about that?
Now, look, the Bengals never, the Joe Burrow Bengals never do well at the beginning of the season. We know that.
No.
They always pick it up later.
Yes.
But just wouldn't it be so funny if they go over here and lose to the Carolina Panthers too after all their losses already?
Yes.
That would be very concerning, and that would certainly tell us that, okay, this isn't just Joe Burrow's usual early season slide. This is something much more serious.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. Bengals start 0-3. It's looking concerning. They have not looked good. Their defense has definitely not looked good so far.
No.
The Panthers, they switch quarterbacks, and all of a sudden their offense looks great. They're clicking. The Raiders' defense is not awful, so there's definitely something good going on there. And guess what? This is Andy Dalton's former team. Revenge game? Potentially.
I think.
But this is still a Bengals team that has Joe Burrow. This is a Bengals team that still has Joe Burrow. T. Higgins is coming back. They still have Jamar Chase. These guys, no matter how poorly defense plays, these guys are not going to allow the team to go 0-4. Carolina had a great little honeymoon period with Andy Dalton week 1, but I mean, we've seen this team week in and week out. There's no reason at this point to believe that this is going to be consistently what they look like going forward. I think this could be very high scoring, considering the Bengals' poor defense. But yeah, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they're not going to let their team slip to 0-4. It's going to be Cincinnati.
Very well.
And if it's not, that is going to be very, very concerning for the Bengals going forward.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I do agree that the Bengals slide won't continue. They will pick up, they will find something of their old stride. I think they are very much still in those early season doldrums, but that won't last.
It can't last. What are the odds of making the playoffs if you go 0-4?
No. There has to be something we have to see some vestige of the powerful 2021, 2022 iteration Joe Burrow Bengals come back at some point. I mean, that can't be dead already. I mean, it's just, I mean, if it died that quickly, then you've got a huge problem. So I will agree with you. But as far as this game goes, I am all in on the Andy Dalton Red Rifle revenge game narrative. I am. I also watched the highlights of that Panthers Raiders game, and I was so impressed by how well Andy Dalton was able to get the best possible outcomes out of this same team that we saw Bryce Young struggling mightily with. And Andy Dalton had them going. You know, again, that Raiders defense, as you said, that is a solid defense, not a bad defense at all. And Andy Dalton picked them apart in their home opener, went into Vegas and picked them apart in their home opener. That should have been, I thought that was going to be a solid win for Vegas, and it was not that at all. Andy Dalton had like 120 plus passer rating, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was awesome, you know.
With no expectation to be playing on this team, by the way.
Exactly. And so, you know, yes, I think that on paper the Bengals are a better team, but I just think about what we just saw on Monday night against Washington, and why should I believe that defense is going to be able to stop this Panthers offense with Dalton behind the wheel? Why should I believe that? I don't believe that. I love the revenge game narrative. I think that this is going to be the start of potentially a new day in Carolina. I really do. I think it's a new day. So we already have a difference. I'm picking the Panthers. I like the Panthers.
How can you imagine you saying this in this situation at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Telling you right before week 1 started that you're going to emphatically pick the Carolina Panthers, or no, week 1 or 2, you're going to emphatically pick the Carolina Panthers to beat a healthy Cincinnati offense.
Yeah, and that's why we love the NFL, because things change. You know, that's the only thing that stays constant is change. Things are always changing. Somebody's fortunes go up, somebody's fortunes go down. You know, that's why we love it. You know, it's a new story every single week.
I guess so, yeah. I could see it happening. But I'm not going to bet on it. But let's switch it up. You want to go first for New Orleans at Atlanta?
Well, sure, I can, and I think this is going to be another close one. You know, I think that, you know, the Saints, they did have a bit of a slide. You know, let's see. I mean, we go back and look at what happened in week 3. The Eagles, right, which, you know, we'll talk about the Eagles in a minute. But, you know, they were looking very high-powered through their first 2 games. And, you know, week 1 against the Panthers, sure. But then they went into Dallas and shellacked the Cowboys. The Cowboys were favored in that game. We picked the Cowboys in that game. And the Saints shellacked them. And so we both liked the Saints last week against the Eagles. But, as I suppose had to happen at some point, they did come back to earth, and perhaps they fell back down to earth with a thud. It was perhaps not their finest hour, and the Eagles were just able to take advantage. You know, I mean, honestly, that should have been a much bigger Eagles victory. We'll talk about them in a minute. But the Eagles did squeak out a win there. And so now you've got the Saints trying to rediscover their footing. Where are they going to land? Are they going to be back to week 1 and 2 Saints? Or is it going to be week 3 Saints from here on out? We'll have to see. But once again, I like Atlanta. I really do. I was very pleased with what I saw last week on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. That was a good game. And the Falcons, I think, played very well. They did not falcon it. You know, well, at the end, they did falcon it a bit. But, you know, for the first 95% of the game, they were not falconing it. And I really liked that.
Well, the falconing, it always happens in the last couple of minutes, doesn't it?
Well, sure. Well, that's the trademark. But they were very competitive. I mean, they were in that game throughout. So I like what I've seen from the Falcons through these first 3 weeks. I do. I believe in what they're trying to build over there. So, I mean, these are two teams coming off a loss, but I think that the Falcons' loss was more impressive to me than the Saints' loss last week. So, give me Atlanta.
Alrighty. So yeah, that is the question, isn't it? Which Saints are we going to be seeing from here on out? What were those first 2 weeks just some massive fluke, or is it an indication that we had just been vastly underrating them this whole time? And vastly underrating Derek Carr, for instance, thinking Alvin Kamara was washed. Clearly not. Yeah, this is a big early division game. Both teams are coming off losses. Let's see. Yeah. I don't know. So here's what I want to address. Why did the Saints look worse last game? Over the first couple weeks of the season, a lot of their success, I think, came from a very surprising sudden dominance of their offensive line, which had been very poor for years. That was a lot of what was driving the success of that offense. Derek Carr being able to throw all those yards. Much of that credit goes to their suddenly resurgent offensive line.
Yeah.
And then the game against Philadelphia, their center, Eric McCoy, goes down with a groin injury. He's on the IR now. As soon as McCoy went down, that the cornerstone of that offensive line, the whole rest of it collapsed. Vic Fangio started to tear it apart after that. Derek Carr was not able to do much. So that's a big concern. Can the Saints still go out and play the kind of offense they've been playing with that offensive line without Eric McCoy? I think that's the big question that we're going to see in this game is can they make do without him? Fortunately, they'll be able to figure that out against the team that, if I have this stat correct here, I wrote this down earlier. Yeah. They'll be able to kind of figure it out and practice it out against the defense with the lowest pressure rate in the league. So if there was ever a team to figure this out against, it's the Falcons.
That's true.
And yeah, Kamara's been going crazy. So is Bijan. And the Falcons, of course, have their own injuries on the offensive line. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and I think the Saints have a better chance of taking advantage of the situation. I'm going to go with the Saints. I don't think they're going to return to week 1 or 2 form, but I do think that they're going to be pretty decent.
Well, I just want to say we're 3 games in, and we already have as many disagreements and differences as we had in the previous 2 weeks. Yeah. So I think this is going very swimmingly, I must say.
Excellent. It's kind of part of why I wanted you to go first, because I had an argument for both of these teams.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I presented the New Orleans argument, but I had an argument for both of these teams.
Oh, well, yes, indeed. And so we migrate now a bit west, as it were, to Houston, who are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville is reeling. I mean, I have to say, I am baffled by what the struggles that Jacksonville has had to start this season. They did beat the Browns, they lost to the Browns, didn't they? Are they 0-3 now?
They are 0-3.
They are 0-3. Yeah, we thought they would beat the Browns, but they lost to the Browns.
I do think that Jacksonville might be the most surprisingly disappointing team this season.
Well, so far, I think that that's a very solid case. I mean, we know that they are capable of so much more than this. We know that the pieces that they have in place are capable of so much better production than what we've seen so far.
Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the greatest draft prospect of all time. He's on that team.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
And yet he's running with a lower career quarterback rating than this Daniel Jones fella.
I know. It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me. We've seen this team work.
I was shocked when I saw that stat, by the way.
I know. I am too. We've seen this team work with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence and most of these same pieces. In fact, if anything, they've added firepower since the 2022 season. Their playoff game-winning 2022 season. So why isn't it working? We know the recipe works. We've tried this recipe. We've tried the recipe before. We know it produces a very tasty final result. So why is it coming out underseasoned and undercooked here? I don't know.
They've got a good quarterback. They've got good offensive weapons. They've got a Super Bowl winning head coach.
I mean, again, if anything, the quality of the ingredients has only improved 2 years hence. So why is it not working? If it's the same recipe, I don't know, but it's not been working. So I believe that there will be an upswing for the Jaguars. I mean, there has to be. Surely there has to be at some point in this season. But through 3 weeks, it's been a pretty sad story. And the Texans are still the Texans. We love the Texans. And, they did get beaten by the Vikings last week, but we're at the point now where we have to acknowledge the Vikings are a quality team. We have to acknowledge that now. I mean, losing to these Vikings with co-touchdown leader through 3 weeks, Sam Darnold, I don't think that there's shame in that. I mean, yeah, the Texans are great, but sometimes great teams have to beat great teams, And I think that's what happened here. And so I'm not going to dock them any points for that.
Sometimes a great team that nobody's looking at just needs to go out and prove they're a great team by beating what is established to be a great team.
Yeah, and that's twice now. First the Niners, and now the Texans.
You could argue that that game mattered a hell of a lot more to the Vikings than it did to the Texans.
I would say so. I mean, nobody is going to be so silly as to suggest that the Texan season is becoming derailed because of one loss. Absolutely not. But yeah, the Vikings to beat 2 playoff caliber quality teams back to back, that's very big for them. So we still love the Texans just as much as we always have. And yeah, the Jags just need to show me something. Show me more. Show me that you can get back to being more than what you've been. Otherwise, it's Texans all day. So
yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. Both of these teams. Well, to be fair, the Texans did lose, but they did lose pretty badly. I mean, the 2 most lopsided games last week were the Vikings-Texans game and the Jaguars-Buffalo game. Both of these teams are coming off of bad losses.
Yeah, well, I mean, let me tell you, for the Jaguars, that Buffalo game, that was rough. That was a beating. That was a legitimate beating.
It was. And yeah, the question stands now. Who is Trevor Lawrence? Is he still the number 1 pick, the greatest college prospect everyone said they'd ever seen? Or is he the guy who's now 17-19 with the most dead average completion percentage in the league? Which Trevor Lawrence do we have now?
I don't know.
Is he still the same guy? We have to wonder that.
Yeah. We are.
Their loss on Monday was horrible, and this is a short week for a team that's playing really poorly. I know that CJ Stroud has the talent to bounce back. I know that Texans offense has the talent to bounce back. And we just haven't seen anything promising out of Jacksonville at all this season. So it's got to be Houston. I've got to pick Houston.
Right. So let's head on over to Denver at the Jets. Here we go.
MetLife showdown.
Yes. It'll be the second of the week. First the Giants tonight, then that on Sunday. Denver really surprised us last week. I mean,
That's for sure.
going to Tampa and beating them badly, having a really dominant defensive performance.
Was that game in Tampa?
It was.
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. Very impressive. Very impressive. And also, obviously, a fantastic defensive performance. But we also have to say, credit where credit's due, Bo Nix looked a lot better.
He took a step. He took
looked
a
lot
big
better.
step.
Yeah, he looked a lot better. So, good for them, honestly. I think we saw a lot more of what Sean Payton loved about Bo Nix in the first place in that game. I think we're starting to see it now. So, also, the Jets had a great, very quality win last week. We're just absolutely smacking the Patriots, a team that terrorized the Jets for 20 years. For 20 years, the Patriots would come down to MetLife and terrorize and humiliate the Jets. The Jets are finally starting to get their payback, and it was glorious to see. I think we all enjoyed that very much, to see the shoe on the other foot for a change. So the Jets feeling good. They're happy. They're 2-1. Denver also, feeling pretty good. They had a great win last week. So these are two teams that are generally, broadly feeling good and deserve to feel good. So who gets the edge here? I think it will be more competitive than Patriots-Jets was last week. I don't know. These are two teams that believe they have momentum. They can credibly claim that. So, but my gut take is, give me the Jets.
Yeah, I really liked the stats that I saw coming out of Denver last week. It was a very impressive win, but I mean, let's be honest. I don't want to let myself fall for some extreme recency bias. The Broncos did not look good the first couple weeks.
No.
Bo Nix looked like a completely different quarterback last week.
Yes.
But we don't know yet if that's going to be consistent.
Hey,
this is their second road game in a row. Yeah. What?
Nat Hackett revenge game? Anybody? Anybody up for that?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what all the eyes in the NFL are going to be on this week. Everyone wants to know how he's going to do in a revenge game. Yeah. No. The Jets are a much tougher defense than Tampa Bay is. Tampa Bay's strength wasn't on their defense alone. Let's be honest. No. Aaron, I hate to say this. This pains me more than to pick Dallas to win. Aaron Rodgers has been looking good. He's been looking in prime form last week.
He's still upright. That's the most important thing. He is still upright.
He's not dead yet. Yeah. And New York just has better weapons. I think we're gonna be heading back to reality for Denver here. I'm gonna pick the Jets.
Very fair. Very fair. Well, this is a tough one now. Vikings, Green Bay. The Vikings are white hot, and they're loving it. They're doing so well right now. But Green Bay is hoping for the return of the one they love the most. See what I did there? Jordan Love. Maybe gonna make his crusading return to the field this week. Maybe. We don't know yet. We'll see.
I would say they really shouldn't rush it, but it is a divisional matchup against the strongest team in the division.
Yeah, and to be fair, Malik Willis, the Packers fill-in right now. He's done pretty well. He's won 2 now as the starter. So
I don't think Green Bay should feel awful about not starting Jordan Love this week.
No, yeah, they shouldn't feel awful about it, but obviously they would love to get Jordan Love back as soon as possible.
For whatever I personally hold against Malik Willis, he's been doing well.
He has been.
No matter my grudge that I hold against any NFL player who comes from Liberty, he's been doing well. He is from Liberty, right?
I think so. Yes, I think so. That's true. And so, honestly, I mean, look, obviously, two quality teams. But for me, it's the uncertainty over who is going to be under center on Sunday that causes me to go for the known commodity over the relatively unknown commodity. I mean,
Right.
we know the Packers at full strength are a great team, but there have been some injuries. Will Jordan Love come back? Whereas right now, the Vikings would love nothing more than to go into Lambeau and claim that win to keep their undefeated streak going. They love it. They want to keep it. They're gonna, they're gonna do anything and everything to hold on to it. So I'm gonna say I like the Vikings. And by the way, we know that offensively they've been great. Sam Darnold, co-TD leader. Justin Jefferson has been awesome. Jordan Addison may be coming back this week. But the story for me here is the defense. That Vikings defense has been fearsome. Obviously beat the hell out of Daniel Jones, put a lid on the Niners, and then made CJ Stroud, the chosen one, look relatively pedestrian last week. That defense did that. So I like the Green Bay quality team at full strength, but are they at full strength? We don't know. I'm gonna say the Vikings.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the games I'm probably going to most want to watch. The Vikings, yeah, they look unstoppable at the moment, which is just so shocking for Justin Jefferson. Obviously, is incredible and everything, but I never thought that I had no expectation that the Sam Darnold-led Vikings were going to look like the most unstoppable team so far.
Yeah.
That's a big shock.
I mean, we have to give Sam Darnold a lot of credit. I mean, I didn't think I'd say this, but this is true. Sam
Here
Darnold
is me giving him his flowers. Yes.
No, you should.
Yeah.
I mean, but not just for what he's been doing. We have to give him credit for not being what Sam Darnold has done. Really is remarkable. This is a guy who was not completely ruined by the Jets, and also not completely ruined by the Panthers. That's incredible. This guy should be ruined by now, but he's not. His spirit has not been broken. Has not been broken by the Jets or the Panthers. He's been through both of those places. It's awesome. So, credit to you, Sam Darnold. You should be a broken man by now, but he's not. So
just keeps fighting.
Yeah. So, huge credit for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. We might be getting Jordan Love back this week. We might not. And even if we do get him back, we don't know if he's going to be playing at full health. We don't know how many risks they're going to want to take with him in his current condition. And yes, the Packers have 2 wins without him. They're coming off 2 wins, but it should be pointed out that those 2 wins are against the Colts and the Titans, who are 2 teams that this season are looking very like they have a lot of flaws.
They have some problems. They have a lot of problems.
And the Vikings' last 2 wins are against San Francisco and Houston.
Yeah.
So it's just looking like, yes, this is in Lambeau, but the Vikings are looking like a better team. So yeah. I'm gonna have to go with Minnesota here. I'm gonna have to go with Minnesota.
And so I'm very curious to hear your take on this next game first. The Steelers at the Colts. As someone who has invested heavily in Anthony Richardson, what do you think? How do you think he's going to fare against the Steelers here?
Well, let's give a disclaimer here. Yes, I did pick Anthony Richardson very early. I grant you that. But heavily invested. I did grab him early. But I grabbed one of the most competent backup. I have one of the most competent backup quarterbacks in the league right now as a fail-safe. I had Brock Purdy to back him up. So heavily invested. I'm invested. I'm invested in Anthony Richardson. No matter what he does this season, obviously I'm not going to drop him based on where I drafted him. But God, I do need this guy to look a hell of a lot better than he's looked. He's great with his legs. From a purely athletic standpoint, he's superhuman, but he needs to learn. He is a quarterback in the NFL, and because of that, he needs to learn how to throw a football. That's important.
Yes.
That is how you win games in the NFL. You can't an offense can't just win with 3 running backs and no quarterback. You need a quarterback.
You do. You really do.
The Colts are a team that really needs to get their offense back online. They need to get their offense figured out. I don't see that happening against the Steelers defense. They need an easier matchup to be able to figure that stuff out. The Steelers defense is way too strong. They're 3-0. They're winning games even on the road very convincingly. Yeah, I don't see the Colts. I don't see the Steelers scoring that much, but I don't see the Colts getting enough scores past Pittsburgh to be able to win this. It's going to take Anthony Richardson might develop more. It's not going to happen here though.
Yeah.
I would say I'd put money. I might consider a bet on 3 turnovers for Anthony Richardson. I might go bet on that.
Wow.
Anthony Richardson 3+ turnovers in this game.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, just to echo what you said, Anthony Richardson, his great appeal, I think, to you and to NFL fans everywhere, was the notion of that he could be the next truly great dual threat quarterback, right? And there were certainly flashes of that potential that we saw early last year before he got hurt. Thus far this year, though, certainly in the last 2 games, what we've seen is Anthony Richardson. He's not a dual threat so much as he is a single threat, and that threat is the wrong threat for the position that he plays.
Yep.
You could either be single threat in terms of being a great passer, not having great legs, or a dual threat. It's not an option to be a single threat just with the legs and not passing as a quarterback.
They have a position for that. It's running back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not really what quarterback is supposed to be. And so, I mean, the Colts have potential, but it has been an enormous struggle the last 2 weeks. I mean, that last game against the Bears, that was putrid. I mean, that was a comedy of errors minus the comedy. It was just errors. Whereas Pittsburgh is 3-0, just in the same way they always find themselves being 3-0, just through the sheer power of bullshit. No one harnesses the power of bullshit like the Steelers do. I have nothing else to say about the Steelers other than they're the same Steelers that they've always been, and they just get lucky. That is what they do. They harness the immense kinetic energy of bullshit to somehow power themselves to victory. They don't deserve it. They don't play like they deserve it, but they get it anyway. So, yeah, it's the Colts struggles against the Steelers' dumb luck.
Yeah.
Again, Indianapolis, I'm ready to believe in you. Just show me. Until you do, I'm picking the Steelers.
Yep. And I had been reading this Twitter thread earlier today that I did that was about this game. That was definitely like this guy was saying, I know exactly. It was from a Colts fan too. I know exactly how this game is going to go. The Steelers are going to run the ball, hold on to the ball as long as they can. They're pass as little as possible, take a couple shots, that's it. And they're just going to slow and steady, get points where they can, not force it, just keep running. Meanwhile, defensively, they're going to just completely make sure no big plays happen. They're just going to use a bunch of pressure.
Oh no, they're very anti-entertainment in that way.
Yeah. Yes.
This is an entertainment product, and they're very anti-entertainment in that way.
They don't do big plays on offense, and they sure as hell don't allow big plays on defense.
No,
Nothing like that. They want this game to it's going to be trench warfare.
Yes.
Every Steelers game is the Eastern Belgium in 1917.
Yeah,
no
God forbid
whatsoever.
anything fun happen. God forbid.
One day we're going to see Mike Tomlin pull out the mustard gas, I swear, on an unsuspecting team. They're just going to use a lot of pressure to force Anthony Richardson to make bad decisions, which they know he will do if they apply any pressure to him. Any pressure on Anthony Richardson, and he's going to make the worst decision out of all of the available decisions he has.
They're just going to be like a house of cards.
Exactly. The only way Anthony Richardson has shown that he can get points outside of his feet are by just a couple explosive plays a game. As long as they make sure those couple explosive plays don't happen just by staring him down the entire time, that's how the Steelers are going to win.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
we know how the Steelers are going to play this game. The Colts know how the Steelers are going to play this game. The Steelers don't care that the Colts know how the Steelers are going to play this game.
And the worst part is it's going to work anyway. Everybody knows what's going to happen.
And
they're going to get away. They're going to get away with it anyway. Yeah.
They can't keep getting away with this. Mike Tomlin can't keep getting away with winning every season, no matter what team he has with him.
I don't know. But yeah, that's how I'm going to refer until he proves otherwise. That's how I'm going to refer to Anthony Richardson. He is a dual threat quarterback missing one of the threats, and it just doesn't work. So
to the point where he is not a threat.
Exactly, the point where he becomes not a threat, and you see the problem. So yeah, I'm sorry, but it's gotta be Pittsburgh. It's gotta be.
I don't. As by the way, as a fantasy owner of Anthony Richardson, I don't think I have that much confidence that he's going to be able to develop a competent NFL throwing ability midway through a season. I don't think he's just going to pick that up on the bye week,
Well, no. Well, but it's baby steps, I mean, it won't all happen at once, but let's just see progress. Let's see steps being taken.
Yeah. It's not like he's just having some problems adjusting to the league. We knew this about Anthony Richardson back in the draft. We knew that he was, everyone described this guy as being raw. He has athletics talent. He's incredibly athletic, but he's raw. So it's not like he needs to get back to the levels he was at in college. He was never at these levels. He needs to fully develop them from scratch.
Yes,
I don't see that happening between week 3 and week 4.
No. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen quickly, but let's at least over the course of the season, let's see steps being taken in the right direction. If on our next check-in and our check-in after that, it's still like this, then we'll know there's a big problem. But, let's give it to the end of October and let's see, have there at least been steps taken? It's not all going to change, but let's see.
He has the skill, I think. So I could plausibly see this still not panning out this season, but he can still develop down the line. There have been plenty of these types of quarterbacks who their first couple years were bad, and they've developed into very good players.
Yes, well, for your sake, I certainly hope it's not entirely a lost year.
Yeah, I hope it's this season because I don't have him next season. We redraft that year.
Yes, exactly.
So,
But yeah, so Steelers all around, I think. And that brings us to Rams at Chicago, which this should be a relatively easy one. As analysis goes, the Rams, we know, are capable of greatness. We know that. They are a great team, but they have been massacred. When we talk about this September, this first month of the year, being IR apocalypse, nowhere is that more true. The Rams have been slaughtered. They've been butchered. They've been massacred. They have been injured to high hell. Puka week 1, Cooper Kupp week 2. The offensive line, huge injuries. They're down to their backup tackles now. I mean, they're dropping like flies over there. So the Rams are a great team that just don't have big parts of the team active right now. And that's obviously hobbling them. Now, they did win. They got a quality win last week against the Niners. Good for them. But, they're just injured to hell right now. I mean, just completely and totally. Whereas Chicago, maybe they're finding their footing. They had a rough loss Sunday Night Football, week 2 against the Texans, but they had a pretty big win last week against the Colts. And, I'm sure that they would love to see a Caleb Williams victory at home now. And I think this is a great opportunity to get it against a Rams team offensively and defensively that is reeling. A Rams team that is really just counting down the days to their bye week so they can reset. We all know after the bye, they'll reset, they'll get back. But until then, it's a death march, pretty much. That's what it is until they get through their bye. So, Chicago, I believe that they will use this game, as they should, to regain their footing and reassert themselves that their season is not done just yet. There is still a lot of potential here, and they are intent on doing some real damage. So, I'm picking Chicago. Why not?
I mean, we do expect to see the Chicago take a step up at some point this season, right? Everyone knows that they have the ability to do that. Last week they lost, but it didn't look terrible, honestly. If you take out the 2 interceptions that Caleb Williams throws, which I understand that is a big qualification, if you remove 2 turnovers. But other than that, he had a good showing. He had a lot of yards. He looked like he was playing pretty decently.
He did. Rome Odunze stepping up big in Keenan Allen's absence. That's been terrific to see.
Exactly. But of course, this is a Rams team that is coming off a win against the 49ers.
That's true.
Close win, but
nobody saw that coming. I would say that's more shocking than the Panthers beating the Raiders.
I don't know about that.
I would say that, honestly. The Rams
these San Francisco LA games are always hotly contested, no matter the state of either team, as you said.
That is true. That's true.
But that, if anything, that lends me to believe that the Rams have less of a chance this week, because this is against the Bears, not the 49ers.
Yes.
The Bears lost last week in Indianapolis, but it wasn't a horrible loss. I think what the Bears really need to do is figure out a way to establish their run game. Take some of the pressure off Caleb, get the ball in the running backs' hands more, or figure out what to do with the running backs, because DeAndre Swift looks awful this season.
He's been very ineffective.
What are the stats on his yards per attempt?
Not good, I can tell you that.
DeAndre Swift yards per attempt. I'm going to pull this up here. 1.8. 1.8 yards per carry.
That's not having good. A run game would be nice for the Bears.
They're going to have to figure out. I think they need to use this game to figure out if any of their other running options are viable. I think they should really put out a committee here. I understand why they don't want to, because I believe they gave Swift a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I understand the hesitation for looking to other options, but you gotta start exploring it sooner rather than later, because Swift is looking like he is not it this year.
No, I mean, Swift, he was good on the Lions.
Yeah. But again, I had this feeling last week, and I have the same feeling this week. I don't care who he's throwing it to. I have confidence in Matthew Stafford to put on a passable offense whenever he's starting. it doesn't matter. I mean, like I said, he kind of proved it last year. It doesn't matter who he's throwing it to. He can make them viable. I don't know. Whoever's on the outside in the Rams defense, he can make it work. This is really hard for me. I don't know if the Bears are insistent on keeping it with Caleb Williams and putting it through the air, then the Rams. I know that the Rams have a very weak secondary. I guess by that metric, I would go with the Bears.
Okay.
And you said Chicago too, right?
I also said Chicago. That's true.
Excellent.
Okay, so well, I'll take the lead here because I want to give you your time to really break down the current situation with the Eagles, and I think there is a lot to say here. Tampa Bay perhaps reeling a little bit. They had 2 great wins to start the season, but then they got beaten pretty badly by Denver last week. That's gotta hurt. Let's see. I mean, let's go back and let's what Tampa Bay's done here so far. Let me just see here. So we had, beating the Commanders convincingly, very convincingly week 1, and then going into Detroit, beating the Lions week 2. That was great. But then losing to the Broncos 26-7 last week. So I still like the Buccaneers. I still am a big believer in the Baker Mayfield Tampa project. I think that the Buccaneers are still very credible claimants to the NFC South crown. And now we have yet another playoff rematch for them. Of course, you remember very well what happened the last time we saw this matchup. I know I remember it very well. I remember it very fondly. Oh, that was quite a lot of fun.
Look, the last time this matchup happened, I knew how it was going to go.
Oh, did you?
I'm sure there's a recording out there somewhere of me saying
story.
I have zero confidence in this iteration of the Eagles to win a single playoff game.
Well, then in that case, yeah, you're all good there. Yes, and so the Eagles, they're still better than the Giants. I'll always give them that. But I am less than convinced thus far through 3 weeks that they are anywhere near as dangerous as they can be or should be. I caught a good bit of that Saints-Eagles game, or Eagles-Saints game, I should say, and it really did seem to me like the Eagles were doing everything in their power to lose that game and fuck it up. And they very nearly did, too.
That's every week.
It does rather seem that way, doesn't it?
They like to have a couple good plays. They like to score, and then they like to give themselves the challenge of, okay, what can we do to make our scoring not matter as much as possible? What can we do to how can we best invalidate everything we've done?
Yes, and so because I cannot wait for you to launch in and dive in on Sirianni, I'll just make my pick here. Why shouldn't it be a different outcome than last time? Hot dog, give me the Buccaneers.
Well, first of all, the Buccaneers just lost to Bo Nix and the Broncos last week.
But they did look good.
Badly.
To be fair, the Broncos did actually look good.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the Buccaneers looked good, because no, they didn't.
No, not last week, but they
got
did come
6
back.
points, buddy.
Yes, that happened last week, but 2 weeks ago they beat the Lions in Detroit. So there it is.
So the Broncos are better than the Lions. That's what this means.
Yeah, if you want to use that transitive property, then yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying.
Okay, look. Yes. Last year, the Eagles train wreck, the Eagles' historic nosedive did end in a blowout loss on the road in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Ended Jason Kelce's career.
And not just him, too. A couple Eagles retired after that.
They did.
Travesty.
They did.
But I saw that as the cap on what was a horrible, terrifying era of the Eagles. That was the last of that. That was the end of
Really
that.
shook your soul, didn't it?
It did. But I'm hoping that blowout playoff loss was the nail in the coffin on that demon infesting Philadelphia. Or not infesting. Well, what's it called? Possessing Philadelphia. If anything, this has the potential for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts to get some revenge for that. I'm hoping. Of course, the Eagles have a lot of concerns right now. As you said, they are not the threat that they should be right now.
No.
Their concerns on offense are, well, multifaceted. It's not just injury related, though there are plenty of those. It's performance related too. But I mean, let's talk about the injuries. This week, it looks like we're not going to have AJ Brown. We're not going to have Devonta Smith. And rather importantly to how well Jalen Hurts will or will not play, we're not going to have Lane Johnson, the offensive lineman. He is really important to that offensive line.
Ooh,
He is
gosh.
critically important to that offensive line, especially with all the other veterans gone.
That's a pretty bleak picture you're painting.
His one option, it looks like, through the air is going to be Dallas Goedert, who is he's a pretty good tight end.
Yes.
But your only passing option being Dallas Goedert.
Exactly. But he's a good tight end, but he is a tight end.
Exactly. And he's not Travis Kelce.
No.
He's great. He's good. He's not Travis Kelce.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, we might have Lane Johnson not looking great. That's going to be a concern. So, those are the injuries, right? Let's talk about the offensive issues they've been having, that are not injury related. Jalen Hurts has been making terrible decisions this year. He's still dealing with the bad reads and the inconsistencies and the turnover issues that sent the Eagles into a nosedive last year. All those things that contributed so heavily to the Eagles' nosedive are still happening at the exact same rate this season as they were in the second half of last year. All of this makes me really concerned for the Eagles. The coaching, while it looked great in the first 2 weeks, it did not look great, or it looked great in the first week. It did not look great the last 2 weeks. Even in the week they won, there were still some very bad choices. I mean, week 2, the play that lost them the game where they tried to pass it to Saquon and he dropped it. That was a bad play to make in that situation when you could have just handed it to him. And his performance up to there would have led you to believe that he would very competently be able to run that in. But they decided to do a screen pass to him and he dropped it. Horrible coaching decision. And what did they do? They run that exact same play down to the number, the exact same play in the very next game. It worked out that time, but why would you run the play again that single-handedly lost you the game last week?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it?
I guess because nobody's going to expect you to do that because it worked out so poorly last time.
Yeah. As the old saying goes, you played yourself.
Yeah. The one good coaching decision I liked about last week, the one decision I really liked was when they tried to do the fake tush push. But it didn't work out. They didn't get it.
It didn't work.
But it was fun. It was fun. So all those considered, the Eagles need to just get back to and focus on what they know will win them the game, which is give it to Saquon as much as possible. That's what they need to do this game. They can experiment with the offense a little bit, see what works, what doesn't, but just focus on getting Saquon downfield on the ground. That's what has been winning them games so far. That's what they need to keep doing.
Yes. Well,
They're
not quite week 2, but I take your point.
what?
Well, not quite in week 2.
Did I say week 2?
Well, no, I'm saying week 2.
Oh.
You say that Saquon's been winning them games. Not exactly true in week 2.
Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying is Saquon is what is winning them the games when they win the games.
Yes.
He is the only factor in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The Buccaneers have been looking good for the most part this season. But yeah, I think if the Eagles just focus on what works, and I'm really hoping they do with their new coaching staff. I'm hoping somebody has a voice in Nick Sirianni's ear, one of those coordinators that can tell him to do that. I'm hoping that results in a win this week. So I'm going to bet on that.
Okay, so after 3 weeks, Eagles fan suicide watch, where are you at? Scale from 1 to 10.
You know what? Despite what it sounded like I was saying, I'm still going to say like a 4 out of 10. Because a lot of the problems that the Eagles are facing right now, I feel like are problems that can be fixed in the season. I mean, the injuries are AJ Brown will be back, Devonta will be back, Lane Johnson will be back. He's not out for a while. He might even start this week. We don't know, but he'll be back. Saquon has looked incredible.
Yes.
I have been loving Saquon, and
I know you are.
Yeah, for the most part, the coaching is better than it was last season. For the most part. So, despite what it might have sounded like, I'm not that hopeless about the Eagles right now. They still have the talent to actually do something.
Well, starting at a 4 is good. Plenty of room to grow. So as the season goes on. So, okay.
Yeah. So you picked Tampa Bay, right?
I did pick Tampa Bay.
Alrighty.
That's another divergence, so we're doing very well here.
All right, we're gonna get into these later afternoon games here in just a minute, but we are going to take a quick break. For you guys, it's not going to feel like anything because we're just going to skip right to the next part. All right, we are back, and we have the afternoon slate of games to get through here. And we're going to start out with New England at San Francisco. Now, the 49ers are on a bit of a skid here. They were widely expected to be one of the most dominant teams in the NFC this season, but a combination of injuries and playing against some really surprisingly good teams has put them at 1-2.
Yep.
Yeah, 1-2. So they're in need for a get back game here. That blown lead to the Rams was not good for them. But they were able to show in that game that, for the most part, the loss of a lot of their stars in George Kittle and Deebo Samuel isn't and CMC. How could I almost forget to say CMC?
Yeah, that's the really big one.
They were able to show that they can still run a good offense without them. They almost won. That Juwan Jennings came up out of nowhere and proved to be very, very competent. Yeah.
Had an incredible game.
The 49ers, I think, are looking to get back on track here. They're going up against a pretty offensively sluggish New England Patriots. Yeah, I expect Brock Purdy to play well. I expect Juwan to play well. They still have Ayuk there as an option. I mean, he's probably. I don't. Obviously, Juwan had an insane game last week. Probably not going to happen again, but he's still competent. They've got Ayuk
Oh,
still.
oh yeah, Ayuk will pick up. He will.
Yeah, Mason has really stepped up. Yeah, it's a big get right game for the 49ers. And on the other side of the ball, you have a Patriots team that ranks dead last in total offense and pass offense. Against a 49ers defense that hasn't looked great this season, but on paper should be decent. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers here.
Yeah, I mean, all I can really say about the current state of the New England Patriots is just to echo what we said in our season preview. This is a rebuilding season for the Patriots. Everybody knows that. And I think the Patriots are doing this the right way when it comes to playing through a rebuilding season, which is don't be ashamed of it. Wear it on your sleeve. Just come out and openly acknowledge, yes, we're rebuilding. Yes, there's going to be problems. Yes, we're not going to be world beaters as we have been in the past. But what we are doing is we are building a new chemistry and building a new culture for the new era of the team. So, yeah, they're rebuilding. Yeah, they're not great, but they wear it on their sleeve, and they don't let it define them. That's the right way to handle playing during a rebuild. So, I do give them credit for that. But naturally, they're going to be underdogs in this game. Yes, what has happened to the Niners is surprising, very surprising. Losing to the Vikings and then losing last week to the also badly damaged Rams. That is surprising, but you could argue that there were legitimate reasons how they could have come up short and how they did come up short in those games. Obviously the Vikings, way better than we gave them credit for at first. And the Rams, as you pointed out, those are always tough rivalry games. Those are always close no matter what, no matter how badly damaged either, or in this case, both teams are. So, yeah, the injuries to the Niners are certainly not ideal, but they don't define them, as you pointed out. Yeah, they don't have CMC, but Jordan Mason stepped up in a big way. Yeah, they don't have Debo, but Juwan Jennings has stepped up in a big way. So, the Niners, it's been 2 surprising losses, but they'll get back on track. I have little doubt about that. They'll get back on track. So, for all those reasons, I'm picking the Niners once again. New England, yeah, they're losing. They know they're losing, but they are building something more important, which is something that can win sustainably in the future. Whereas the Niners are very much win now, win now, win now. They have to do it, and I think they will here. So, San Francisco.
Yeah. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be for our sake and for their sake.
yes, I think so. Right, so Washington at Arizona. I want to give Washington a lot of credit. That was a great win on Monday night. Terrific win. Great game. Very fun to watch. I told you in our season preview, Washington did this properly. They got a live one. They got a real one. Jaden Daniels is the real thing. He's going to do it. He is doing it. I know we hate to see it in our division, but you have to admire how quickly he's come along. Of all the rookie quarterbacks, I think there's no doubt he's been the most successful so far. Caleb Williams, he could still be that. God knows when we'll see Drake May. Bo Nix maybe could be something there. God knows if we'll see Michael Penix. But through 3 weeks, hands down, the most successful rookie quarterback, I think, has to be Jaden Daniels, that guy. He's looking like that guy. He's looking like the kind of guy who can and will lift up an entire franchise. I really do. That is the kind of franchise quarterback that you can build on for a decade or more. Absolutely. So, he's the real deal. And that offense can be, as we just saw against the Bengals, has the potential for danger. Definitely has the potential to be very dangerous indeed. But I love what the Cardinals are cooking so far. I've been a big fan. Obviously, I've got Kyler Murray in fantasy. Been very happy with him. What I love about the Cardinals style is that they're slippery. You can never pin them down. You never know exactly what they're going to do. They're always changing things up. They're very creative. And, you could never fully count them out. That's what I love about them. Even when they're down, they're not out. It would be a big mistake to think that they are. So, as much as I appreciate the immense progress that Washington has made, I am definitely high on the Cardinals supply this year. I must tell you. So, I think that I like the Cardinals here. I just think that Kyler Murray and that offense with Marvin Harrison Jr., who has been a stud so far, I think that, or at least in the past 2 weeks he has been, I think that they have enough to just pick that Washington defense apart. I really do, because that Washington defense is still a bit suspect, maybe more than a bit. So I like the Cardinals. Give me Arizona.
Yeah. There's actually something interesting about this game. It's sort of a homecoming of sorts in a way. I mean, you have Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator in Washington. He was the Cardinals head coach for a while. But Jaden Daniels spent a lot of his college career at ASU. So
that's true.
This is him returning to the desert.
Very true.
As well, yeah. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, Jaden Daniels has looked incredible throughout the first couple of weeks of this season. On Monday night, near flawless. I mean, 91% completion rating, 3 touchdowns. That completion rating is a record for a single game for a rookie. By the way, 91% in a single game. That is a rookie record.
Yeah.
The running offense for Washington has looked really good. Jaden Daniels with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler has been tearing it up. And this Arizona defense, let's see, they allowed nearly 200 yards on the ground in Detroit last week. So that's definitely something Washington can take advantage of. Unfortunately, they won't have Austin Eckler this week, so that could change things there.
Which, as an Eckler owner in fantasy, breaks my heart. I got to tell you, breaks my heart.
Yeah, but all that said, Jaden Daniels is going against another Heisman quarterback. The Cardinals are 1-2, but it's been a convincing 1-2. It's been a strong 1-2.
Yeah.
5 touchdowns to 1 interception. That's a market improvement for Murray. He's been doing really well, and Marvin Harrison is, weeks 1 and maybe week 2, he didn't immediately jump on the scene, but he's making a name for himself in the league now.
Oh yeah, well, week 2 he definitely did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Week 1 was quiet, but he's here now. We know he's here.
Oh,
yeah. 2 dynamic quarterbacks. 2 dynamic quarterbacks playing 2 teams that have weaker defenses. This should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, should be.
Though I am going to put my money more so on Kyler than Daniels in this matchup, or more accurately, on Arizona over Washington in this matchup. I'm going to go with Arizona as well here.
Okay. All right. Well, another one of your teams, Kansas City at the Chargers.
Yes.
Now, are you looking forward to this or dreading this, given the situation?
I don't think. Look, the fact that Justin Herbert very well probably won't play in this game makes me already. The game hasn't happened yet. I'm already going to write it off, I think. Without Justin Herbert, and potentially Rashawn Slater too, I think he might be injured for a while, and that's big if that's true.
And
Joe
Joe
Alt.
Alt, I
Yeah,
heard
Joe
he got
Alt.
injured. Yeah.
Yeah, he got injured. I don't know what's happening with them, but if they aren't there and Herbert's not there, this Chargers offense isn't going to be doing anything.
You think
They're
Heineke can't do something?
not given the situation. No, no. The Chargers offense, the Chargers offensive line runs through those two guys, and if they're gone, they're fucked.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are 3-0. It's not the most convincing 3-0 we've ever seen. They're not looking like juggernauts, but they're getting shit done.
You mean the refs are 3-0? I think that's what you mean to say.
Well,
The refs stay undefeated.
that whole discussion might be for another episode, but as far as the leaderboards say, the Chiefs are 3-0. It's so highly dependent on whether Herbert plays, but ultimately I'm just going to assume he's not and say the Chiefs take this one. And I won't be upset if they do. It's the Chiefs, and it's a banged up Chargers offense, which already isn't the strongest part of their team. So I don't think the defense alone can carry them. It's going to be the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, when CBS really, went all in on getting this game, this isn't exactly what they had in mind, I'm sure. Whatever CBS paid to get this game on in the, the main afternoon slot, they weren't expecting one of the major teams to be as badly banged up as the Chargers already are.
They probably weren't expecting that much before the season started, and then 2 weeks in, they're like, oh, okay, this might be really good, and now they're back to,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you're 2 weeks too late, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been a great game. This probably would have been a great game. But yeah, I mean, the Chargers are just beaten to hell right now. As you said, offensive line, bad injuries there. Justin Herbert maybe not even going to play. Tyler Heineke is going to get in.
Ideally, the Chargers don't have a great shot at this anyway. Ideally, they just shouldn't play Herbert because they risked playing him last week and he started limping again. So
Yeah.
they need to give him a week off.
Sure, yeah. And so, Chiefs Chargers has consistently been an entertaining matchup in recent years, but I don't think this will be one of the sparkling examples of that rivalry.
We might have to wait for later in the season to get a real matchup of these two teams.
I think
for sure.
so. I think so. So, as much as it should have been a big thing, Mahomes at Sci-Fi going up against Herbert and Harbaugh.
At Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
In the space stadium.
Well, did I say Sci-Fi or?
You did, and I loved it.
Yeah. Well, SoFi is pretty sci-fi, I think. So.
It's true, yeah.
So yeah,
One
but
space age venue.
I would say so. So. Yeah, it won't be quite the matchup that we were sold on, but there could still be something there. I mean, I don't know. I hope so. For our sake, we have to watch it. So I hope there's something to be had there. So, but yes, I think you summed it up in a simple phrase perfectly, which is it's the Chiefs. As I've said time and time again, no matter what your team's specialty is, what your team's quarterback specialty is, anything you can do, Mahomes can do a little bit better. Anything that your team specializes in, when the Chiefs come to town, somehow they find a way to do it just a little bit better. It's infuriating. Infuriating, Whatever your team is known for, the Chiefs come in and they do it just a bit better. And so, it's the Chiefs. What can you do? I'm picking Kansas City.
It's going to have to be.
Yeah.
Hey, if Tyler Heineke can pull it off, I'll be exhilarated.
Yeah, you'll be over the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, will you be there? Will you be in attendance at this game?
I'm not sure yet, actually. We're gonna try to sell these tickets to some high-paying Chiefs fans, but if not, I'll go.
Yeah, I'm sure there's definitely a resale market amongst Chiefs fans in LA.
I'm just not sure if I even want to. I suffered through enough Herbert-less Chargers games last season.
Easton Stick. Ooh.
Yeah. I went to all those Easton Stick home games. I don't know if I want to go to another Herbert-free game, honestly.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I don't blame you. Browns Raiders. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this. Losing to the Giants isn't a good look, is it? Given how we started this season, managing to lose to these Giants is not a good look at all. Now, as I said, that game could have gone either way. The Browns could have won it, but they didn't. So there has to be some demerit for that, I think.
Yeah. You know what else is not a good look?
Losing to the Panthers.
Losing to the 2024 Panthers.
Now, yes, but I will say the Raiders legitimately...
Both home games, by the way, for the losing teams.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But I will give the Raiders a slight pass because they were clearly shocked by how good Andy Dalton looked. Like, the Browns knew what the Giants would look like, and they got what they were promised. The Raiders had no idea what these Panthers would look like, and they got shocked and surprised. There was no way to predict that to that degree. So I do give the Raiders some benefit of the doubt on that. And for that reason, I mean, the Raiders' offense has been fine. I watched the highlights of that last game. The Raiders' offense is fine. Not great, but fine. Very serviceable, I would say. The defense didn't have their best day last week, but still, I would say a solid defense. I do rate them. Whereas Cleveland, I don't know. There's just so little that I find inspiring about this Cleveland team. Even that defense, we know that defense is pretty great at home, but usually on the road, it's a very different story. So, I just find very little to be inspired in about the Cleveland Browns, to have faith in about them. They'll win games, but I don't consider them a winning team. The Raiders may yet be a winning team. It's kind of wishy-washy so far, but they may yet be a winning team by the end of this year. So I like the Raiders, Call this their redo on their home opener, We'll run it back. This is the real home opener in my book, so.
Yeah. It's actually interesting how after week 3, I mean, to me, I feel like these are two teams that are in a very similar boat. Two sort of underwhelming offenses, I would say. Let's see. Both of these teams coming off of bad home losses to the two worst teams in the NFL.
Yes, that is true.
Las Vegas, a team that's considering a quarterback change right now, and Cleveland, a team where I'm sure a lot of the fans would love to see a quarterback change at the moment.
Oh.
These teams are much more similar than they are different if you really get down to it. Yeah. What Minshew? There's always been a question of whether he should be a starting quarterback in any situation. Deshaun Watson is not playing well.
No.
I don't think this is going to be a very exciting game.
No.
No. But considering the circumstances, I think the Raiders as a whole have looked better this season. Yeah, I'm going to say Las Vegas as well. And give it to the home team.
Yeah, why not? Okay, well now we get to the crown jewels, and we've got 2 crown jewels in particular of the remaining 3 games.
Tennessee and Miami.
And yeah, so Tennessee and Miami is not one of the crown jewels, but this game is Buffalo at Baltimore. Now, how about that for a crown jewel, huh? That's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, honestly.
NBC, they knew no matter what happens, this is going to be a winner. And they were right. This is going to be a winner. Gosh, 2 teams that we love, right? 2 teams that we love, and we love them for pretty different and disparate reasons. Baltimore wins in the trenches, right? They win on running the ball and stopping you running the ball. Whereas Buffalo, they love the aerial attack. They'll come over there and they'll bomb you where you are, right? And they'll also pick you off when you try to take to the air. So it's really like two teams that are perfectly complemented or perfectly disparate in what they're best at, I should say. Perfectly complementary in their disparate strengths. How about that? And two teams that, as I said, we both love. Buffalo, their defenses looked undeterred despite losing some key pieces. They're looking as strong as ever. And offensively, they're great. It's been beat down after beat down after beat down. And then Baltimore, who I love, I'm very heavily invested in Baltimore in fantasy, certainly. I can just say nice things about both of these teams, honestly. Lamar is great. Derrick Henry is, strong as ever. Everything is good right now for both of these teams. And it's a tough call. I gotta tell you, it's a really tough call.
Yeah. This game. This is an important game. This is a game to decide who the co-lead of the AFC is.
It is. It absolutely is. And so I can really only just keep saying nice things about both of these teams. We thought that Buffalo was on the downward trend. Not so. Not based on what we've seen through the first 3 weeks.
All the concerns about Buffalo taking a step back, whether Josh Allen would be able to thrive without a top target like Stephon Diggs, you can get rid of those doubts now. You can throw those out the window.
Absolutely. So,
I'd say probably through 3 weeks, front runner for MVP.
He certainly could be, but also so could Lamar. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So this is really tough. Gosh, I tell you.
Buffalo completely dismantled Jacksonville Monday night, but Baltimore also got a decent win against a very good team.
A good win. They looked
much better team.
Yeah, they looked
Jacksonville.
They looked very strong against the Cowboys last week. So, listen, this is a 50-50 call. I could make a Bills case. I could make a Ravens case. I just have to pick one. And in this case, I'm picking the Ravens. But seriously, it could go either way. It really, really could. Nothing would surprise me. This is going to be a very entertaining game. Mark my words.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What can I say? Like you said, this is going to be an incredible game. These are two teams on the top of their game. Ha ha ha. Both of these teams look incredible. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. I'm going to have to say,
the highlights are going to be awesome.
Yeah. I think the Ravens, last week the Ravens were running it right down the Cowboys' throat all game. I think they're going to do the same against Buffalo here. Yeah. Josh Allen's going to go crazy, but I think Derrick Henry is as well. And you know what? If this game was in Buffalo, I'd pick Buffalo, but this game's in Baltimore, I'm going to pick Baltimore.
So we have an agreement.
We do.
That's very interesting.
It could go either way for both of us, but we both fell on the same side here.
Okay, well, Titans at Dolphins. Now, I just want to acknowledge briefly here that we do have something of a hurricane passing through the area just now. Hurricane Helene.
How you holding up for that?
Well, it's a very interesting story because at the start of the summer, this hurricane season was predicted to be potentially historically active. That's what they said going into hurricane season this year. Potential for a historically active season. And I'm very happy to be able to report that as we come to the end of hurricane season, it has not been that. We've gotten very lucky, at least here in Florida, we've gotten very lucky. I know there was a hurricane earlier in the season that did hit Mexico, but here in Florida, the coastal United States, I think also Louisiana got one earlier, but here in Florida, we've been very lucky. No major hurricanes have passed through this season. So that's great news for us. um, but of course, we couldn't totally get through this season without one cropping up, and one did just as the door is closing on this hurricane season. Helene, and in the past 2 days, just 2 days, just 3 days ago, this was not considered a particularly significant storm system. It really has intensified very rapidly in the past 2 days. And now, the last I saw, it was a category 4. Is it really? It's racing. It's moving very quickly. It's racing up the Gulf of Mexico, kind of, just skirting the western coast of Florida, and it's going to hit the Big Bend area of the Panhandle tonight. So that's happening as we speak. Now, where I am here in South Florida, southeastern Florida, we're not getting any major impacts. We're getting some of the outer bands circulating through, but nothing major, and no tropical storm winds or anything like that. So we're okay here, and this shouldn't have any effect on the game on Monday, of course.
Might be a little damp, but
yeah,
that's
it'll be a
about
bit damp. I think that's safe to say. It will be a bit damp, but otherwise everything should be good. At least certainly in Miami.
I mean, it's never good when, obviously never good when a hurricane makes landfall here, but at the very least, it does seem like it's hitting the most sparsely populated section of the Gulf Coast it possibly could.
Oh, definitely. It definitely is. And also, and again, this is not a good thing, but Big Bend has been hit by big hurricanes back to back to back, pretty much. Those people up there have gotten really used to this happening. So, again, it's not good, but it isn't surprising either. So.
I was just looking at that area on Google Maps recently, this morning. I find it a little bit unfathomable that there are any towns up there at all. It just looks like it's all swamp for 20, 30 miles inland.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like there's much solid ground there at all.
No, not there. There isn't really outside of the beaches and the coastal areas. But yeah, the only city of any note up there in that area is Tallahassee, the state capital.
But that's still, 30 miles, 40 miles inland?
Yeah, probably further, honestly, probably further than that. So yeah, it's decently inland, but other than that, yeah, there really aren't any other cities in that area. So, so I guess the moral of the story is if a hurricane has to hit Florida, you want it to hit there. You don't want it to hit Miami. You don't want it to hit Tampa. You don't want it to hit and go up past Orlando, Jacksonville, all those areas, because that's where people live. That's where a lot of people live. If it has to hit, you want it to hit there. So yes.
And fortunately, FSU is on the road this week.
Yes, indeed. And so yes, the field shouldn't be badly impacted in Miami on Monday. It'll be more impacted in Tampa Bay on Sunday when the Eagles come to town. That really will be damp.
I just realized that because the hurricane's making landfall tonight, so it won't still be in the area by Sunday. So it's not going to cancel the game or anything.
No, it'll be over Georgia by tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow afternoon.
Which, by the way, speaking of Georgia, have you heard about how this hurricane is causing a lot of chaos in the MLB right now?
I didn't know that.
They're having to reschedule a bunch of games for teams that are actively vying for the postseason. The Braves and the Mets had to reschedule a bunch of their games to now be a double header. They have to play 2 games on Monday and then travel to San Diego for the wild card on Tuesday. So whoever wins is going to be coming off of a double header and then traveling to the other side of the country to immediately play a playoff game.
Wow, God.
Which is a win and in playoff game. So
Ooh, yeah, I don't envy them.
They have been thoroughly screwed.
Yes, I'll say. My God. That's a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do? Shake your hands at the cloud like Grandpa Simpson? Not much you can do.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes. Yeah.
It is what it is, and
If
so.
anything, as a Padres fan, I love that that's happening.
and I will say, if the hurricane has to be moving quickly or moving slowly, you'd rather it move quickly, because when it lingers over an area, that's when you really get problems. I've seen that firsthand. So it's actually a good thing that it's moving as quickly as it is. So it's over the Gulf now. It'll hit Big Bend overnight, and it should be, the map I saw, the center of the storm, the center of the hurricane, should be all the way up over Atlanta in northern Georgia by tomorrow afternoon. So it's moving very fast. That is quick, huh? Yeah, it is very fast. So, but anyway, that's a meteorological watch on the Extra Point.
11 p.m. Eastern. For all of our Big Bend listeners. Yeah, I'm sure you already know this information and you're not getting it from this podcast.
Yeah, this will not be helpful to you at all by the time this comes out, but we are saying it now. But well, yes.
Best of luck to y'all.
Absolutely. Anyways. Best of luck to everybody up there. But yes, Titans at Dolphins. Listen, obviously the Dolphins are also one of my teams, but they are hobbled right now by Tua's absence. He did get concussed in that Thursday night football game, week 2 against the Bills. I swear the Bills always have his number no matter what. I mean, it's just, the Bills, nothing gets these Dolphins like the Bills. The Bills just know how to handle them. And so with Tua being out, there has been a downturn. They tried out Skylar Thompson last week. That did not work. And so now maybe it'll be Tyler Huntley.
It worked out so poorly that he couldn't even finish the game.
No, exactly. So now maybe it'll be Tyler Huntley. Either way.
Not bad. Not a bad option. He's literally a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad fill-in. Not a bad fill-in.
Which I just found out about.
I know, which is incredible to think
How
about.
did that happen? Yeah.
But yeah, not a bad fill-in, but obviously the Dolphins' prospects are diminished from what they would be if Tua was in.
Yes.
So
especially Tyler Huntley is not the same type of quarterback.
No, it's a very different type actually. He's very much in the Lamar mold. Given that they were both in Baltimore together. Mm-hmm. But yes, and so it's difficult for me, as much as I like the Dolphins, to trust them at this current moment, given the situation. But on the other hand, you've got the Tennessee Titans, who also have, shall we say, myriad question marks. What's his face? Mr. Mayonnaise.
Mr. Mayonnaise and coffee.
Exactly, yeah. He looked better last week, I will say that. He did look better, but still obviously wasn't enough to win.
He's still looked like the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, well, yeah, still very rough around the edges. Extremely rough around the edges. But I will say this, as far as last week and last week alone, he looked better than Anthony Richardson did. So I will say that.
I wouldn't even say that.
I would, because I watched the highlights from the Packers-Titans, and I would say so. I mean, Anthony Richardson looked really bad last week, but we've already talked about him. So, do I trust the Titans to take advantage of this opportunity and seal the deal, get a win against the Dolphins, who in normal times would be a far superior team?
Well, do you?
Yeah, I do. Just barely, I do. It's Tyler Huntley could work, but I want to see how is he going to work in this offense. We know he worked filling in for Lamar in Baltimore, but how does he work in Miami? I have no idea. So for now, I have just the slightest, tiniest bit more faith in the Titans this week than I do in the Dolphins this week. So it's a pick I didn't expect to make, but I'll take Tennessee.
I mean, hey, looking at the problems that the Tennessee offense has had, do you know how many sacks Levis has taken in 3 games?
How many?
How many sacks are there in an average NFL game?
Both teams or one team?
One team.
If you get like 4 or more sacks, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 3 or more is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 to 2 is I think the average is just a bit above 2.
Sure.
So that should work out to 6 sacks.
Yeah.
7, 8.
Could be. Yeah.
Levis has taken 15 sacks in the past 3 games.
Ooh, that's not nice.
How many turnovers does
you can say he's well acquainted with the ground.
Indeed. How many turnovers does a quarterback have in an average game?
I mean, you don't want to see. I mean,
you don't want to
2
see
or more is not good.
No. So let's say 3 to 6. 6 is bad. Yeah.
Very bad.
He has 8 turnovers in the past 3 games. That is the kind of thing that 8 turnovers and 15 sacks is the kind of thing that everything else on the team can be perfect, but if you have those stats, you're not winning a single game. The defense can be absolutely perfect. The receivers could be absolutely perfect, but if you're giving up 8 turnovers and 15 sacks a game, you're not winning.
Yeah.
I mean, not a game, but in 3 games, you're not winning. Miami's pass rush is a little bit worse than average, so that could help him out. But I like the idea of Miami rolling with Tyler Huntley and Mike McDaniel being able to scheme some interesting plays and scripts for Tyler Huntley to work through, considering the type of build he is at quarterback. I think Mike McDaniel would have a lot of fun with him. So I think this Tennessee team has looked awful. Miami is not in a good place right now, but I'm going to place my bet on Mike McDaniel. I'm going to go with Miami.
Very fair. And I just want to say that even though I predicted Tennessee, I do hope that you're right, because I would much rather watch that. So, okay, well, that brings us to what I would argue is the other crown jewel of this week. Lucky us, Seahawks at the Lions.
Featuring my favorite player in the NFL.
Oh, who's that?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh, a fine choice.
He seems like a cool guy.
He is.
He's pretty funny.
His numbers are certainly cool. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this was a great matchup last year when the Seahawks came to Detroit. These are both basically the same teams, except now Seattle has traded the oldest head coach for the youngest one. I see no reason why this shouldn't be a great game again. Obviously Detroit, we've sung their praises enough. We know they're great. Offense is clicking. Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jared Goff is looking good. Sam Laporta, still waiting to get a bit more runway, but I'm sure he'll get there. And then that defense, the Lions' defense, is definitely looking improved from what we've seen last year or the year previous. So they're great. No question, bottom line, end of story. And Seattle, we know that offense is pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily call it top tier, but it's pretty good. But that defense has also taken a big step forward for Seattle. I think Mike McDonald, that's his name, right? Mike McDonald. He has definitely brought a healthy dose of that Baltimore grit to those Seattle environs. And I think it's a great change of pace for them. Change of vibe, if you will. The young gun.
I pulled up some of the Seattle defense stats right here. Seattle's defense has allowed 3.9 yards per play. That's great.
It's great.
Only 3 total touchdowns over the first 3 weeks. And yeah, 4.7 yards per throw. Yeah, they've been looking pretty great so far. Mike McDonald is running that very well.
Yeah, and I mean, and we know, because we've seen it time and time again, young guns can thrive in the NFC West. McVay, Shanahan, I think we can now add to their number. Cliff Kingsbury thought he was that. He was a poser for the most part. But, but McVay, Shanahan, and I think now Mike McDonald is now the third member of that cadre. I really do. If the first 3 weeks were anything to go by, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So should be another terrific game, I think. Hard fought once again. And last year, if I recall correctly, the Seahawks got the better end of this matchup. So I like, if I recall that correctly, and I think I am, I'm gonna bet on the revenge narrative. Because Detroit, they love a revenge narrative. Everybody loves a revenge narrative. That's what I'm picking. Give me Detroit.
Excellent. I think that for this game specifically, I think this game is a lot more important for Seattle than Detroit. Yes, Seattle is 3-0, but their schedule hasn't been that tough. This game is going to be tough for them. This is going to be a lot harder than all the wins they've gotten so far. The Lions are incredible on offense. They've played well on defense. Well, the Lions haven't been that incredible on offense this year, but we know that they have the talent to be incredible. The main concern for them is, like I said, the Seattle defense has been amazing as well. It's going to be a really big test for Goff and everybody else. So yeah, it's just a matter of the test of Goff, whether they can take on this defense, and a test for Seattle, whether they can prove to be as dominant against a much tougher team than they've played so far.
Yes, indeed.
If the Lions need to stay on the ground, they can easily do so with Jameer and David Montgomery. So yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, I'm sure, will be quite dangerous to Geno.
I'm counting on it.
Yeah, I think Detroit goes into the bye with a win.
Okay.
And that's that.
And that's that. All right, so let's wrap this up here, bring this to a successful landing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 differences to choose from here for our double downs.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, I see the fourth one. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think I already know which one I want. Do you know which one you want?
Ooh. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I think of our 4 options here, which, just to recap for the viewers at home, and I can even put this up on the screen here so that they can see what we have. Let me bring this up here. There we go. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Refresh the page. Get all of our predictions. Okay. So, of our options here, I think I would like to double down on Atlanta over New Orleans. And just to recap for the folks at home, our differences are Atlanta, New Orleans. We also have Carolina, Cincinnati, as well as Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, and Tennessee, Miami.
Yes. And again, for me, who are you doubling down on?
And I'm going to double down on the Falcons of those 4 options.
Of the Falcons. Wow, interesting. So that's actually the game I felt least confident in doubling down on.
Okay.
The most even matchup, I thought.
It is an even matchup, but I do like the Falcons in it.
Okay. I am going to double down right here on Cincinnati.
And if you ask me, that's risky too.
I don't think they allow themselves to go 0-4. I sincerely hope for their sake they don't allow it.
Fair. Very fair. Okay. Well, do we want to do spreads or just wrap it up there?
We've only got a couple minutes left in this game, and I know you want to watch it, so let's go ahead and wrap it up for this week.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, I want to say thank you all at home so much for joining us for our second official episode of The Extra Point. This one didn't technically last 8 hours long, so I would call this a marked improvement. This will probably come out to just over 2 hours, so that's not so bad, is it? But yeah, any parting words for the folks at home?
I think it's going to be a great week of NFL football. I pray that the chaos continues tenfold. And yeah, I'm excited to get back in here with the next episode, whenever that'll be. We've got a lot of ideas on topics lined up. So make sure you just stay tuned and keep an eye out for those.
Absolutely. So yeah, we cannot wait to catch up with you all again for our next check-in sometime in October. And until then, thank you all so much for watching, and we will speak to you again very soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Farewell.